was a Saturday afternoon, just like any other, or so I thought. The sun was shining brightly outside, casting a warm glow through the kitchen window. The smell of fresh coffee lingered in the air as I sat at the table, flipping through a magazine, waiting for my sister, Sarah, to come downstairs. But something felt off that day, quiet unease that I couldn't shake, like there was something hanging in the air, waiting to be discovered. Sarah and I had always been close. She was my best friend. We did everything together, shared our secrets, our dreams, and even our heartaches. Growing up, we had no boundaries when it came to our relationship. She was the one I turned to when life got tough. She always had my back, but something changed recently. Couldn't put my finger on it, but I knew she wasn't herself. She was more distant, more guarded. She'd been acting strangely for the past few weeks. She'd started spending more time away from home, always making excuses to be out late, never really telling me where she was going. And then there was the phone. The phone, which was usually always with her, was left on the kitchen counter that afternoon. It was odd because Sarah never left it behind. It was always glued to her side, like a lifeline she couldn't live without. At first, I tried to ignore it. I really did. But something inside me told me to look, to see if everything was okay. I picked up her phone, hesitated for a moment, and then glanced at the screen. The name that appeared was unfamiliar to me. Jake. I didn't know anyone named Jake. My heart skipped a beat as I saw the message pop up. Can't wait to see you tonight. I miss you. I froze. It felt like the ground beneath me had suddenly disappeared. I stared at the screen, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. This wasn't just a friendly message. There was something intimate about it, something that suggested there was more going on. My mind raced. My sister, the woman I thought I knew inside and out, was hiding something from me. I could feel my chest tightening as the reality of the situation began to sink in. I couldn't just ignore it. I had to know more. But at the same time, I was scared of what I might find. What if I was jumping to conclusions? What if this was just a misunderstanding? But the truth was, I didn't believe that. Deep down, I knew. I put her phone down slowly and walked away, trying to collect myself. I told myself I was overreacting, that this could be nothing. But even as I tried to convince myself of that, my gut kept telling me something wasn't right, and I couldn't ignore it any longer. The next few days were torture. Sarah came and went, as usual, but something felt off. Her behavior was different, more secretive, more distant. She would disappear for hours, only to return with excuses I didn't buy anymore. I tried to talk to her about it, tried to ask her if something was going on, but she always brushed it off with a smile. Everything's fine, she'd say, but I could see the guilt in her eyes. It was then that I knew I had to find out the truth. But how? How do you confront someone you love so deeply, someone you've trusted your entire life, when you don't know what they're hiding? The thought alone made me feel sick, but I couldn't stop myself. I had to know. One evening, I followed her. I didn't know where she was going, but I had a feeling, a gut instinct that told me to trust my suspicions. She said she was going out with some friends, but she didn't mention who. And the more I thought about it, the more it felt like she was trying to distance herself from me. I couldn't shake that feeling. So I waited for her to leave the house, and then I followed her. My heart pounded as I drove behind her car, keeping a safe distance. It felt wrong, like I was doing something I shouldn't. But my need to know the truth was stronger than any guilt or hesitation I had. She drove through the city, weaving through streets I didn't recognize, until she stopped at a house at the end of a quiet street. My heart stopped in my chest as I parked a few houses down, watching her get out of the car. And then I saw him, the man she was meeting. He stepped forward, greeting her with a hug that looked far too intimate for just a friend. They shared a kiss, one that lingered just a little too long. And in that moment, I felt the weight of everything crash down on me. My sister was having an affair. It wasn't just some random fling. It was real. It was ongoing. And it was with someone I didn't know. Someone who made her smile like that. Someone who made her feel things I had no idea about. I stayed there for what felt like hours, watching them go inside. My mind was racing, spinning out of control. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. I was in shock, unable to process what I had just witnessed. My sister, the woman I had always trusted, had betrayed me, and I had no idea how to handle it. The next day, I couldn't look at her the same way. I tried to act normal, to go through the motions of our usual routine, but it was impossible. Every time I looked at her, I saw the secret she was hiding. The woman I had once known was gone, replaced by someone I didn't recognize, and I couldn't stand it. I spent the day avoiding her, trying to figure out how I would confront her. What would I say? How could I ever look her in the eye again? That evening, she came home, and the tension between us was palpable. I could feel it in the air. She knew something was wrong, but she didn't know how much I knew. She tried to make small talk, but I could hardly get the words out. Finally, I couldn't hold it in any longer. "I saw you," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. Words hung in the air like a thick fog. She stopped dead in her tracks, her face pale. "I saw you last night with him." Her eyes widened, and I saw a flicker of fear pass across her face. She knew what I had seen. She had no excuses left. "How long?" I asked, my voice breaking. "How long have you been seeing him?" She didn't answer right away. She just stared at the floor, her shoulders shaking with the weight of what I had discovered. "It started months ago," she whispered. "I didn't mean for it to happen. It just did." The words hit me like a punch to the stomach. I couldn't comprehend what she was saying. This wasn't my sister. The person who had always been there for me, the person I thought I knew better than anyone. This woman was someone else. She continued, her voice trembling. "I was lonely. I didn't know how to deal with it. He made me feel something I hadn't felt in so long." I could see the pain in her eyes, and part of me wanted to comfort her, to understand her. But I couldn't. Not now. Not after everything. "How could you do this to me?" I asked, the tears welling up in my eyes. "How could you betray me like this?" Her face crumpled, and she began to cry. "I'm so sorry," she sobbed. "I never wanted to hurt you. I didn't know how to fix it. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know how to make sense of everything. My sister had hurt me in a way I never thought possible. And now, our relationship would never be the same." We sat there in silence for what felt like an eternity. I didn't know how to forgive her. I didn't know if I ever could. I still don't.